we get through here to YouTube, and then we'll find out here. It looks like we're good to go. All right. Oh, we even got the little excellent condition. Uh-oh. I need to plug in my... There we go. My router wasn't plugged in. Whew. That could have been a disaster there, Eddie, if I tried to carry the show on wireless.
Yes.
All right. Well, here we are. Let me send off...
You plugging it in didn't interrupt the signal.
No, it was dropping frames. So
No.
we're better now. Well, it's buffering and it'll be all good. Look, and then I got the Twitch notice here, but we are live. We're on YouTube again. The little ban is over. Time served. We've got all of that taken care of for the moment.
Don't we keep getting knocked and banned for like stuff Spags did 5 years ago or something? Like I don't recall.
Yeah, a couple of them were 2 years old. So
I don't know what it is. Justice delayed is justice denied, I will say. Like they need to be a little more efficient with that crap.
Yeah, well, they've tweaked. So basically, what has happened is they've tweaked their algorithm, and we get flagged, but it's an automated rebuttal or to get out of jail process. Which the first step is you contact them, and then you wait, and that's kind of frustrating. So usually these things get squared away because they'll go back and look at it, and they'll be like, yeah, I don't know why it flagged you. And then we march along. But if you get too many of these, then you don't get to be on YouTube anymore. In the meantime, they have all sorts of things that I would rather surprised they allow on YouTube, and they seem to be doing just fine. Here we have a bunch of dorks talking sports. So I don't know. But we're good here. We're getting some people coming in. We've got a 6-gamer today. There was one earlier. Let me call up my notes page here so I can take a peek at what is going on. Shout out to our former coworker, Warren Kasoy, Bills fan 777 last night. Laid down a monster. Apparently ran one lineup, and he had the literal nuts. Poor Adam Scherer was behind him, like in 11th place in a few of those contests where there was a 10 entry train. So not always great.
Yeah, I thought last night went really well. A lot of people obviously won some money, lots of retweets. Willie Cauley Stein over Thon was something that worked out really well. He didn't do it yesterday. I have a guy who will occasionally go back and list the number of times I say each player's name and send it to me, which is cute. But I think the top of that list for me might have been Drew Holiday and Jamal Murray and one other guy. So despite a lot of people winning, I got like 6-7 complaints about Pascal Siakam, who I did also like a lot. I think him and Drew and Jamal Murray were the three I liked the most. But yeah, Pascal was like 0 for 7 from 3. Didn't quite get the double did, so he only had like 38 or 39 fantasy points or something, and people were like, that's the worst call. Like, it was took the most shots on the team, went about how I like, but just slight low variance and got basically 40 instead of 50, and people were very upset about that. So sorry, I guess. Overall though, I thought it went about as I thought it should. Nice high scoring slate, lots of guys putting up some big numbers.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, my operation stay up late and watch basketball worked till about 11:04 was when my Fitbit said, "Yeah, you." That's when I went to sleep. I was watching it, and then I was watching it on my phone, and I was lying in bed, and I thought I'll just rest my eyes for a moment, and I didn't make it back. But yeah, I did not have a good night last night. DraftKings was broke even, and anytime you break even, I think in today's world you're fine. But I turned my $54 I was telling you before the show on SuperDraft into $4, which was like a reversal from what I did the day before, where I doubled up. So it's like, okay, well, back to the drawing board there. But again, we are sponsored by SuperDraft. I was happy with my picks. Just didn't work out. I'd been on a bit of a hot streak there.
Who screwed you? I'm trying to think who we liked, who didn't.
Serge Ibaka.
Ibaka wasn't superlative. Yeah,
that was my main one. And then I was not just on the bubble, but even with all the overlay, I was still about, I was, if they would catch like the top 15 or 20%, I was about 10% down the field. So I didn't have an awful night. Yeah. I just wasn't going to be in the money. So.
Well, it's if you play mostly GPPs, sometimes you'll, if you're better than average every night, you can lose every night because you're 30th percentile, 26th percentile, 38th percentile. That doesn't do anything for you. So
yeah. Question in chat: are you a wine guy or a beer guy?
Me?
Yeah.
Neither. Clean and sober some number of years now. So don't drink wine, don't drink beer. When I drink on occasion, it is celebratory or to become intoxicated as quickly as possible, neither of which are wine or beer. I guess wine is occasionally celebratory. So champagne in that context. Some nights I dip once, many nights I dip twice. So that's wine. But yeah, myself, neither very much.
All right, I'm just looking at my. I don't
You?
like wine. I prefer beer. So.
Yeah. I don't particularly enjoy the taste of either of them. I never quite got it.
Yeah.
People are always like, have a beer. I'm like, I will drink a beer. I have consumed many a beer. If there's a contest to consume lots of beer, that's fun for me. I enjoy competition, but just like I'm thirsty, I will have a beer. It's a rare thing. It's like water. I'm roughly as interested in drinking beer as I am in drinking water, and that I would rather drink something that tastes good. But if you're in a particular scenario, if you're on the beach in Mexico, a Corona will appear from time to time. With water, if I've been playing basketball for a few hours, water suddenly becomes incredibly appealing. But just sort of like hanging out, no, I'll drink basically anything else. I don't get as much sleep as I should, so working a couple jobs, energy drink tends to get in there over just about everything. So, or occasionally diet soda, just like you.
Guys that killed me last night. DeMar DeRozan was in the majority of my lineups.
Yeah,
Jokic,
I was not a fan of
yep.
DeRozan last night relative to other people. He was fine, but I think I had him at like double B's or something. I was a tear down on him.
Well, he is double D's.
That whole game, I was Fox. You, a few other people were very De'Aaron Fox. I didn't see that working out. I rewatched the previous Spurs Kings game, and I expected that not to work ideally for him because they'd covered him well, and the easiest way to get through their defense at this point is a little more size. And De'Aaron Fox has lots of great things, but forceful is not one of them. So yeah, I thought it was a pretty good show. Honestly, I put in the time. Put a lot of time for today though too. So.
Well, let's get to it then. Let's hit so unique schedule. We've got 3 at 6, 1 at 7, 1 at 7:30, and then 1 at 9. We've got Memphis at Washington checking in with the 2. It's bounced up just a little over and just a little below 240 for the over under there. It's at 239. That'll be a good one to talk about. You got the Knickerbockers in Atlanta, 228 on that one. Chicago at Philly. We are going to have Joel Embiid and Al Horford should they choose to play. We've got Utah at Houston. Houston's favored by 3, 232 over under there. Things have changed a little bit, although they had played almost 4 or 5 games without Capella heading into that trade. So we've kind of seen the new normal there. You got the Clippers who got waxed last night without, they had everybody last night. Tonight they're not going to have Kawhi, but they're in Cleveland favored by 5.5. And then you've got Miami in Portland. Did Miami? No, Miami had. Did they play last night?
Miami did not.
Okay, so they played Friday then. I knew they played Sacramento. I just couldn't remember.
They played Friday, and they play tomorrow. They're on the front end of a back-to-back. There's 3 teams on road back-to-backs here. But Miami is tonight in Portland, tomorrow at Golden State, I believe is the schedule for them.
All right, so key moving parts here. Memphis, we have Gorgie Jang available to play. You've got Jordan Bell available to play. The Knickerbockers, you've got Damian Dotson is back. Alonzo Trier still out. Mo Harkless still hasn't played since being traded. Atlanta will be without Cam Reddish. He is in the concussion protocol. You've got DeAndre Bembry out as well. You have DeAndre Hunter in. You have Treveon Graham available. You have Bruno Fernando available as well. Trae Young should be playing. He's been dealing with tweaked ankle, but he looks to be good. Dwayne Dedmon has said he is good to go as well. For Chicago, the usual dings and nicks. No Denzel Valentine. Daniel Gifford is questionable. Zach LaVine questionable. Neck and whiplash was what somebody was saying.
He got struck in the back of the neck. I expect him to go. Is my current read on that situation, but it's technically a game time decision, so I can't say much more optimistic than say 50-50. But theory is he should go.
Russell Westbrook back in after getting the last game off. Andre Drummond is going to play tonight for Cleveland. Tristan Thompson, maybe he's going to get bought out, maybe he's not. is available to play, as is Marcus Morris for the Clips. We mentioned no Kawhi. There's also no Pat Beverly. For Miami and Portland, this was where it gets a little bit interesting. No Tyler Hero, no Jimmy Butler. That's going to open up a bunch of minutes here. Jay Crowder available to play, as is Andre Iguodala. So we'll have to see if they work
as is Solomon Hill. So there's some room at the guards, but the forwards are going to be sticky for that team.
And then
not unusable, but a little sticky for that team.
All right, and then Portland is, we know, not Nasir Little is out. Anthony Simmons is in the concussion protocol, and he is doubtful.
Yeah, no,
that's a lot of moving parts for 12 teams.
Yeah, it's. I like this a lot. There's lots of stuff going on.
All right. Well, let's jump right in. Let's go over to Memphis and Washington. They're going to be one of the popular games here. There's 3 games I really like: Memphis, Washington, Atlanta, New York, and then I guess I think the Cleveland one's okay as well. And then I really like that night game. So we'll check that out. But a reminder today that the ownership rankings are free. So you guys can find that. I will drop a link in chat, but you can find that by going to the osmo.com. Go up to the header menu bar, and then you will see a basketball menu. If you hover over that, it will bring up a drop down for you, and then you can get let's see. Okay, there we go. Yeah, ownership rankings are free. Then you can get to them that way. I'll drop them in myself.
The ownership rankings are free today? That's good. You know, we can have it's easier to have the conversation at that juncture.
Yes, and NHL projections are free as well. NHL also locking at 6.
Who? Sorry.
So let's start her off here. Ja Morant, rookie wall, stretch of good defenses. We were going back and forth a little bit in Slack today, or I was a railbird in that conversation with some people.
I mean, they just played Philly. Before that, there was Pellies, who were not terribly difficult. Detroit, who's not so the stretch of good defenses. No, like there was a good defense the last game. Before that, I'll look it up, but top of my head, I don't seem to. The other 3 I can think of aren't particularly thrilling for me. All right, they played Philadelphia. That's a tough defense. That's fine. Dallas, average. Detroit, horrific. New Orleans, below average. Knicks, closing on average, but below average. So, no, you can't have stretch of bad defenses. And before that, they played Denver, which is the best one they played in the last month, and he was really good. And they played Detroit and was really good.
So it's the mythical rookie wall then. Yes!
It's a lot of basketball to play. I don't think the rookie wall is mythical. I think it's difficult to quantify or understand, but you play high school, you play college, and you play X games, and now he's into his 60th pro game playing 30 whatever minutes, and that's, playing.
He's already played as many or more road games this season than he does in a normal season. So
yeah, so I do think if you did a statistical analysis of it, obviously not comparing to other years, but comparing to regression within that year and your average player's regression. I mean, everyone wears down as the year goes on. But I do suspect for rookies it's a bit more pronounced than, I don't really care, but it's a bit more pronounced. Sorry, go ahead. You were talking about Memphis. That was the important part.
Yeah, so the question is Ja Morant. I was chatting with you before the show. We were saying, and I see somebody just put Tyus Jones in as a question mark in chat. He is the direct backup for Ja. It is, you got to go 6 games back when Denver and Memphis played, and I think he and Ja shared the court for a minute and a half in that game.
Yeah, I'd say about 2 minutes in that game. Yep, that meshes with what I recall. Oh, look, Josh Jackson got ownership. That's cute. I was kind of curious. I ranked him. I was just kind of curious if people actually went there. Update: people went there.
Yeah. So what are we doing? One of the best matchups here against the Wizards. One of the least efficient, least effective defenses. One of the faster paced teams. Memphis gets the cookies.
Brilliant, especially on DraftKings. So, like on FanDuel, everyone is saying everyone is underpriced is oxymoronic. But Memphis is very, very cheap on DraftKings, and I have an incredible amount of appeal towards their players in this particularly spot, and again, especially on DraftKings, where the going is very, very good. It is hard for me not to like any of the guys we expect to start for this team, be they Dillon Brooks or Ja Morant or Kyle Anderson or Josh Jackson Jr. or Jonas Valanciunas. So some comments on these numbers, and then we'll take a look at their ownership and try to rank them a little better. I do think it is relevant when looking at this team for today to talk about the bodies they have coming in and where we think some of these extra minutes are coming from. We don't have any Dion Waiters or Justice Winslow. They are reporting to this team, but they are not there yet. They will not play, or they will not play. I don't know if they're technically there yet for a couple of these guys. But Gorgie Jang will suit up and Jordan Bell will suit up. I ranked Gorgie Jang. I did not rank Jordan Bell, but it's worth pointing out I don't know where these guys are going to slot in for minutes. Their minutes at the 4 and the 5 are pretty locked down for this team at this point. And the 5 is, Valanciunas and Brandon Clark are already playing more than 48 minutes together. So I've had a few people be like, Gorgie Jang. They may not play him. And if they do, it's going to take some minutes away from someone else we want to look at playing here. Like, we want to play Ja Morant and Dillon Brooks and Josh Jackson and Valanciunas and Clark and Anderson and Melton. All rank very well for me on DraftKings with the amount of time they're seeing. And I would have Tyus Jones below all of those. I don't think he's out of play, but I do think it's a particularly good spot for Ja Morant. I do think the predominant likelihood is that he has a good game, which would stretch his minutes, and that the predominant likelihood is that Tyus Jones just backs him up. So I have Ja Morant at 31 minutes. That means I think I'm getting 17 minutes of Tyus Jones. I really can't go there. So I believe I did rank him, but he was on the cusp of not being ranked. You are looking for a blowout or an injury or something a little bit hooey to go on there for that to work out. All the 7 guys I listed above him, 6 guys? No, 7 guys I listed above him. I think we can still expect to see significant minutes, but it is worth pointing out when you are talking about Jaren Jackson Jr. and Jonas Valanciunas, the import of Bell and Jang, I do think should be of notable concern regarding their minutes. I still love them. I think they're great. But again, this comes into a pricing issue. Again, you have everyone on FanDuel priced what would be considered too cheap on DraftKings. I'll use that and make it cross site reference. But on DraftKings, we have multiple guys who are well too cheap. Dillon Brooks, who's a guy we've been talking about all year, and I think we were out in front of. I liked how he looked for a good week before I think everyone picked up on the minutes and the usage being really consistently present. You and I and others here at Awesemo talked about $4,900 on DraftKings in this matchup is a brilliant price. Kyle Anderson I have for 28 minutes. Could see a couple more than that. Is only $4,100 on DraftKings. So both of them are significantly cheaper than they are on FanDuel. Jaren Jackson is $5,800. The matchup really doesn't get a ton better here. Valanciunas, tough for me because lots of brilliant center plays on both sites, whether you're talking about, Harrell on FanDuel or Embiid on DK, or there's lots of center plays I'm particularly fond of. And I am concerned that the likelihood of a ceiling minutes performance is down a bit. I still like him just fine if he plays. I have him at 28 minutes. If he plays 28 minutes, he can easily score 56 fantasy points against the Wizards at 2 fantasy points per minute. He's done it a few times this year. The matchup does not get a ton better for him. So I'm fine going there, but sort of in a vacuum, not the spot I'm most excited about. Went back and watched the majority of the game from admittedly a couple months ago where these two teams played again previously in Memphis then, and J-Val was pretty pedestrian in that game. That doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot to me, though they started in that game they started the exact same starters they started tonight. They started Morant, Brooks, Anderson, Valanciunas, and Josh Jackson Jr. and those teams were actually fairly similar in that game. Memphis put them on them. You got the best game out of Dillon Brooks, actually, who had some 40 fantasy points or some such, 27 real, if memory serves. So, and Brandon Clark had an excellent game off the bench. But I have concerns with Clark and Valanciunas due to just big bodies coming in who maybe they want to kick the tires and give the guys 12 minutes in a great matchup. And possibly there's a blowout there and the prices aren't quite as high as the other guys. So I really, really like all 7 guys that I mentioned before getting to the Tyus Jones tier. We have Dylan Brooks as the most owned player at 32%. I don't have an objection with that. That seems about right. He is objectively very underpriced. So I'm kind of fine getting there. Our next Memphis player, these are shared too, so we can talk about this out in the open. I'm coming out of the ownership closet here. Ja Morant, 25%. Feels good. You do think the ceiling is there. The matchup is fine. I don't expect them to have any secret sauce answer for him. They had a very balanced game when they last played, so he was not superlative, but that price being down at 6,300 obviously pretends a big ceiling for him. I think him being number 2 is fine. We have Melton third at 4,000. Yeah, if you think he's got, 25 minutes in the tank at a price tag, again, priced much better on DraftKings of 4K, it's hard not to project him for something like 28 fantasy points. And at 4K, that's going to feel really good. There's some concern with, the minutes necessarily being there, but I do feel better about the guys in the backcourt. Now we have Jaren Jackson, all these guys landing in our top 10 at 5,800. Same deal like that a lot. We do have Valanciunas. His ownership is appropriately low. He's at 13%, and that's got something to do with fairly chalky Joel Embiid, fairly chalky Hassan Whiteside. So those are knocking his ownership down. And I'm fine. That's about where that number should be. So going back and sort of from the top, Brooks, I'm fine with that. Morant, I'm fine with that. That's about where it should be. Melton, I might even want more. 17%, that feels a little low. Jaren Jackson, I might even want more. 16% feels a little bit low. But it's especially on DraftKings very strong. FanDuel, the pricing relative to the other pricing on the site, not quite as impressive, but Dylan Brooks at 55 is still probably going to be the most owned and should be. Morant at only 62 there, a touch cheaper. Valanciunas at 7 flat. Ends up being like my number 3 or 4 center just because of the way the pricing works out, but the ceiling is there, so that's going to be an ownership call. You can get Brandon Clark at power forward there for only 4,800. That play is fine, but yeah, and Josh Jackson deserves a mention. He's like, I have him at 21 minutes right now. You could see a couple more than that. He is still the flat minimum on DraftKings, and the matchup doesn't get any better, so he's probably my favorite flat minimum play right now. So there's a lot of love for Memphis. They're not under the radar, but having the right couple pieces of this seems good to me. But I don't want to invent a take where there isn't one. They're roughly appropriately owned to how much I like them and where their ceiling lies. I'd have a little more Melton. I'd have a little more, Jaren Jackson.
Would you set a minimum or a maximum for the Memphis guys, or are there any particular groups you would look to here? I don't think I want more than 3.
I think Valanciunas and Clark is a good avoidance. I think more than 3. On DraftKings, you can talk me into 4. Like if on DraftKings you tell me that you're playing, especially if one of them is, like if you end up playing Morant, Brooks, Kyle Anderson, and DeAnthony Melton, those guys are 4K, 4.1, 4.9, and 6.3 in a pretty brilliant matchup. I don't think that's ideal. But I don't think I would lock a rule at 3 because I can see times on this slate I would want 4, but I think 2.5 is about maybe 2 is about the right number. 2 feels like the sweet spot for me, or 2.2, so closer to 3 than to 1. But on DraftKings, it's worth really noting how well priced they are relative to just tons of other guys where you're paying a higher tag. There's a lot of guys today who on one side or the other are significantly better plays, and I'll try to bring them up as we get to them. But you have Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell on FanDuel stand out as what the hell was going on there.
Let's bounce to those guys, then we'll come back and talk Washington. Do you feel that projection systems are kind of getting a little too high for Harrell right now, considering the front court he's going to have to go against?
No.
Okay.
I'm not particularly worried about that front court. There are some good fantasy producing players in that front court, but Andre Drummond's been defensively a sieve this year.
I was sorry, I should have completed my thought. More worried about lack of rebound opportunities with the other guys.
That's fair. And again, I'm on FanDuel at 5,500. I think he may rank out as my best center at this point. Okay. DraftKings is a far different thing and doesn't seem like a piece you need to get to, especially where on DK FanDuel and DraftKings are very different when you look at the Clippers when it comes to the pricing, because on DK you have Harrell at 6-something, Williams at 6-8, and Paul George only at 8-1. On FanDuel, it's like Williams 5-4, Harrell 5-5, George 8-6. So there's a $3,200 difference between those guys. So on FanDuel, you can get away with not playing Paul George, though that's sticky because small forward is a tire fire. So you kind of just want the raw points there. So frequently, I think you'll end up playing all three of those guys at some ridiculous prices. And we've seen games this year where Kawhi sits and all three of those guys have 30 real points and an average of 58 fantasy points. Like that has happened at least twice off the top of my head. So it doesn't bother me at all at FanDuel where the prices are dumb. I kind of like having them all at that point because I think the lineup's a little more unique that way. I think a few people go, Jesus, I don't want all three of these guys. I'll drop a Harrell for a different center or something.
Yeah,
like
and
that.
SuperDraft has them all really good multipliers for. They have them at Kawhi multipliers, so this is very helpful for them as well. From that one.
What are they? What are their multipliers on SuperDraft?
Well, I'll have to call that up. I think they're between 1.4 and 1.6. I believe George is 1.4, and I think Harrell is 1.6.
George is 1.4.
Let me check. Yes. No. Sorry. Bam Adebayo, my other favorite SuperDraft play, is 1.4. Paul George is 1.35, and Harrell is 1.6. I believe Lou is 1.6 as well. I'm going to drop this link into chat, but we've got a free article every day, the DFS Building Blocks article. I put in 3 good SuperDraft plays on there. They are the sponsor of the show. We'll talk about them in a moment. They are locking at 6 tonight, so just be cognizant of that.
They're on time. Okay.
All right. So, is there anything on Cleveland that you would want? And then we're going to go back to Bradley Beal and the Bealettes.
Want? No. In one lineup, I'm not going to play a Cav. I don't know what's going to happen in the front court. I have Drummond starting and playing 30 minutes, Tristan Thompson backing him up and for 18, them both playing only center. I have Love starting and playing 31 minutes. Nance now backing him up only, playing 17 minutes at power forward. Missed a big Nance day a few weeks ago where I got that rotation wrong, but I can't. That's what I have to guess will happen. I'm not super secure in either the minutes or the rotation, but then you have the 3 where you have Osman with Porter only backing him up, and it's just I'm fine if you want to, especially with Pat Beverly out, looking at some holes in the defense, getting to a couple shares of Drummond, a couple shares of Colin Sexton, a couple shares of Darius Garland, but not also the run back for them. They played once this year. LA blew them out. Nobody was incredibly good on the Cavs. Kawhi was in that game and had 60 some odd fantasy points with 43 real, and blah, blah. That was a game Paul George was out. Yeah, Paul George was out the last game against the Cavs. Joel Embiid was out the last game against the Bulls. There was a lot of that today, going back and watching video where it's like, well, this is useless. But even in that game with Georgia, Montrezl Harrell, I will look it up. I will get the box because I don't want to remember it wrong. I just watched it a couple hours ago. I'm disappointed in myself. Montrezl Harrell played only 20 minutes, had 12 points, 3 assists, 2 rebounds, and 2 steals. So 23 fantasy points in 20 minutes. Lou Williams played 20 minutes, shot 10 of 13 from the field in 20 minutes for 24, 4, and 1. So they both had 30 fantasy points in their 20 minutes. Or Montrezl had 25 and he had 30. And that is a bit of your concern here, that they after the stank they laid in Minnesota last night, they're on a back-to-back also. This was supposed to be an easy back-to-back for them. They were on the road in Minnesota, followed by on the road in Cleveland. That was supposed to be 2 wins for your, now finals favorite LA Clippers. That is not what occurred last night, as a ragtag Timberwolves team dropped 142 on them in regulation. I did not see that coming.
No, not even close. Not even close.
That was unexpected. So if I try to expurgate that memory from my head, I'm a little concerned that the Clippers put it on them here, but you would like to think they come back, have some sort of statement game, but your road back-to-back in Cleveland, not really sure how any of that is going to go down, but I think that should be part of your calculus when you're looking at your investiture into this LA team tonight. It's tough. On DraftKings, you get a piece or two, it feels fine. On FanDuel, if you want to run the 3 pieces like that, you need the game to stay close. And I just said I don't like any calves. So you have a lot of your DFS brain pulling you in different directions because you're making all sorts of negative correlation plays with multiple scorers on the same team. And I like Landry Shamet, who I still expect to start and see, some significant time in an excellent matchup at only $4,400. I think I would want to make sure I have some exposure there at a significantly off the board price. Marcus Morris Sr., you want a unique lineup on FanDuel instead of playing, Lou and Montrez and Paul George, play Lou and Montrez and Marcus Morris. I don't really like him on this team with what's going to be decreased usage. We can't be secure in the minutes at this point, although them still being minus a couple people, no, I assume he starts today alongside Shaman and the others we would expect. So no Kawhi, no Beverly. I think you probably get starting in 31, 32 minutes out of Marcus Morris here. DraftKings really hard for me to get to 6,400. FanDuel, small forward where there's really only 5 you want to play. I can't raw project him better than Bojan or Paul George or other guys, but you'll have a really unique lineup if you play, say, those 3 Clippers. So I'd have some interest in Marcus Morris there. That's about it.
All right, back to Washington. So Bradley Beal is probably the guy we want to run back things with on Memphis. We got 30 minutes to go here. We'll keep bouncing around.
Okay.
What do you like? Anything else from the Wizards? So you've got McRae being traded, Isaiah Thomas being traded. Now we've got Shabazz Napier being worked in. That could take something away from Ish Smith. You've got Thomas Bryant out for another 3 games they just announced, but we've got Wagner back and Rui Hachimura and his Jumblies are back. What I don't see anybody else really besides Beal. It's just a lot of question marks. Even Troy Brown Jr. is not getting the
Bertans would be the next guy I would.
Okay, yeah.
I can see a Bertans. I'm not a huge fan, but I do have him still over 30 minutes. Memphis's defense and overall performance as a team has been really impressive. And I think some of the shade towards Iguodala was appropriate. Like the team rattled off, 13 wins in 15 games and is in the 8th playoff seed and is looking really good, and he's still, sitting in his deck chair waiting for a trade. Like that would burn my biscuits if I was on. So I think some of that, I would be pretty like being like, I want to be on a contender. They'd be like, we're a contender. We're in the playoffs currently. Perhaps you could play some basketball. So I'm a fan of player power plays over management. Kurt Flood for life. But anyhow, the next guy I would take in tournaments I would take the shot on Davis Bertans. Not a priority for me, but the only other guy on this team, I have Beal with an A in cash and an A in GPPs. I was incredibly wrong when I said I thought they would be a little more careful with his minutes. No, they're not being more careful with his minutes. He played 38 or 39 in regulation each of the last couple games. Which seems just asinine. Sorry, but just for a second, you're really not going anywhere. You technically can fight for what's going to be a 37-win 8th seed in the East, but this guy has a history of lower legs and stress reactions and all these problems. I don't know how you justify it. Anyhow, so I like Beal. He got an A in cash and A in GPPs. You're obviously playing some amount of Memphis, so there's some correlation there. That makes sense. Relative to what I expect him to be owned after that, I would have it Bertans, then Ish, then probably 4K Mahinmi, who I think maybe gets a little more of the play up time here. Valanciunas would and has roasted Wagner a little bit, so I would probably go that way. But no super priorities after that, which again the correlation or absence thereof does feel a little weird.
All right, the next game that we have a lot of interest in, we have a priced up Julius Randle. You've got John Collins. We've got a bunch of bigs that are now available to play. What do you like or not like from this one? We've got Elfrid Payton, who is making DFSers aware of him once again. I would have thought I would have gotten to more on this one. I really just like the power forwards, and we're paying for them tonight.
So talking about Atlanta and New York, and I'll try to do this one a little quicker. The Knicks also on an easy back-to-back. Streaking Knicks, by the way. How many wins do the Knicks have in a row?
2, 3, 4. What? I haven't been looking. Wow.
4 games in a row for the Knicks.
They ain't lollygagging.
First, they are not lollygagging. Very nice. And gonna push for 5 tonight. Several of those on the road. So Harkless is still out. Dotson will play. Trier is still out. I don't know where to start on this one. Yeah, lots to like here, but I think like you, I came away less excited than I thought I would be when I got there, and it just has to do with the minutes are thin at a lot of these positions. So we like Randall. I'm still absolutely fine getting to Randall at this price wherever you may be. Particularly roaming. FanDuel, I'd have him as an AA. DK is probably a BA for me in a world of Paul George and a couple other guys. It's hard to see it being correct in cash. I like Elfrid Payton in tournaments. I also have him as a B and an A. The time is secure. The matchup doesn't really get any better. And I think he's going to be like 5-7% owned. You're smiling your ass off. What's going on?
They're talking about lollygagging in chat now.
You lollygag the ball around the infield.
What does that make them, Larry? Lollygaggers.
Lollygaggers. Robert Wolf. Okay. I like some tournament exposure to Mitch Robinson at 4,300 on DraftKings. There are a lot of very chalky centers, so you're going to get like 7% Mitch Robinson, I'm guessing. 7, 8, 9, and had his best game of the year against the Hawks, if that matters for you. Hard to go anywhere near the Hawks centers. They have, I don't know, 6 now. 3 of them are still injured, but Jones will start, and Dedmon is in without a minutes limit, and I think Fernando is in. I don't really want any of that. That causes me to be a little less interested in Collins, who I like to get more time at the 5, and I think his 5 time is going to be slowly evaporating. So I think he's just great in tournaments. He's elite ass rebounder. I think you can certainly pick up a ceiling game there. I like Trey a lot with Trey in. He's not going to be owned as much as he should be, especially FanDuel. That price is very appealing for me. I see no reason he can't put up a monster here. That's an ownership question. So I will check the ownership on these guys in a second. After that, I've gotten a lot of hoarder questions. FanDuel, I'm fine. DK, I probably want to go somewhere else. With Young in, your value on Teague and Hoarder and Goodwin really all disappears for me. I would rather play DeAndre Hunter at 4,100. But yeah, I'm pretty light on this team. I did not rank a ton of guys. And you shouldn't, even though it's a good matchup. Trey being back in just sort of screws everything the hell up. And as I mentioned, the big rotation is very well congested at this point. So Young, love, let me check that ownership. But if it's, as I imagine, somewhere in like the 10% range, I'm probably gonna want to have a little bit more than that. 10.0. So yes, it's in the 10% range. That's pretty funny. I'll be a little more on FanDuel, but yeah, so I would be over the board on over the field on Trey there. I'm fine getting to some John Collins, and I expect him to be, lower owned than Randall. So I feel like Collins is going to be in the mid to high singles. We have him at 7%. That feels about right. I'd probably want a little more than that. But beyond that, no real priorities on this team. And the Knicks, again, I briefly alluded to, liking Mitch. I like getting some of that. Randall and Payton I talked about. Past that, it's messy. Taj is kind of appealing for value. In tournaments, I'd probably rather get to Bobby Portis or obviously Mitch Robinson, but that's $1,000 from Taj. You can play Wayne Ellington again. He's minimum. I'd probably rather Josh Jackson, a couple other guys, but I ranked him. Had a good game last night. Maybe sticks in the rotation, and if you're trying to put together a streak, sticking in the rotation, you're not going to do a lot better than a Hawks game, and I'll give up there because we're late on time.
All right, let's see. How do you feel about Joel Embiid tonight? Very, very cheap on DK I think he's like 8,200, 8,000 or 8,200.
82. Yeah, I love him. He's probably my favorite player on DK. Like Horford's in, that's not great. Basically everyone's in for that team, even if Burks and Little Dog in. So this team is going to be interesting because usage will be a little more. You're going to have Josh Richardson now back healthy, more or less, played whatever 15 minutes in the last game. that number is going to come back up. I don't know if he goes back to starting here. I don't know if they start Milton. None of it really matters. You're on the big four there. Second meeting for these two teams this year. Embiid missed the first one, but it's a particularly brilliant spot. And 82 is just sort of pricing error. FanDuel, complete opposite. Many other guys are pricing errors, and he's fine to get to, and I would have some interest there. But 8,200 is going to be a hard fail if he doesn't. I have him projected for right around 50, and that's just at 8,200. I have a lot of trouble getting away from that. So not a must. But I suspect we still have him in the 30% range. That feels right. I might even want a little more. We currently have him at 30.9. Yeah, in the newest update. So we have Dylan Brooks up to 37. That's probably a little higher than it should be. We have Paul George at 31. That's fine. Embiid there. We have Westbrook at 26. That's fine, but a bit too much for me. I don't have him projected that differently from Beal, who we have significantly lower for ownership. So I would end up with less Westbrook than that. I don't have an issue with Westbrook. I like Westbrook better at his price than Harden. May as well segue into that real quick. Okay. Eric Gordon will be out. House will start next to Covington, the two guards previously mentioned, and everybody's favorite center who's an inch taller than me, PJ Tucker. Yeah, I do think, especially on FanDuel, you're going to get too low ownership on James Harden. Like, there is enough value floating around now, and you don't need the 100 out of Harden, but he's had 80 against Utah a couple of times. Second meeting between these two teams this year, but we can ignore the first one entirely because there was no Harden, no Westbrook, no Capella, and the Rockets still won, and Eric Gordon had 70 fantasy points. So literally almost an entirely different team. So basically a fresh matchup here. But we have Harden, I imagine, projected at a pretty nominal number on DraftKings. We have him at 9%. That's probably too low for the guy I have projected to be the highest scorer on the slate. So I would want to come in north of that number because I do think I'm not as concerned with his form as I was a week or two ago, where he was a little bit belabored. The step was a little slow. I don't know, non-rookie wall, but last couple games has looked a little better. Matchup obviously not ideal. Those were pointing out that Utah's defense has been similar to Denver. Both those high altitude teams have been significantly worse recently. Denver's a little easier to explain with all the injuries. Utah is something I need to look into more. I don't have a great sense of the reason there. Conley coming back maybe, but that doesn't intuitively make sense to me based on how that changes the lineup. But so Houston, I can live without 5K PJ Tucker. House is, I think, like 4,100 or something. I want to double check that. The number on House is kind of appealing with Gordon out. So I want to make sure I'm remembering that. House 47. So I would rather play $4,700 House than Tucker, but neither are a real priority for me. I do think I like Harden and Westbrook probably. I like Harden more than the field. Westbrook I would like close to the field. I think it is underrated how ridiculously fast and powerful this offense is going to be now. I expect him to put up some silly numbers once they get Covington in there. I don't mind Covington. 53 on DK is the number there. Not the best matchup, though it's been very consistent against Utah and the individual defenders against him there in the past. So don't mind getting to Covington, but not a priority. But I would prefer Westbrook and Cash and Harden and GPPs. Rest of this team is probably being a little bit too cute at their current prices.
All right. Mitchell, they're asking about Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, kind of wrapping things up from the Houston side there.
Yeah, I like Gobert quite a bit. I have to rank him behind Embiid and Whiteside as far as raw points production, but he is an A in cash and an A in GPPs for me at 8,000. He's looked really good and been very good recently, and that pricing down in this spot against a team that, while I do expect them to acclimate and be a hell of a lot more impressive, more impressive offensively, they're going to get pretty bad defensively. And we certainly saw some of that with Phoenix taking them up and down the court just a couple days ago. But I like Gobert a lot. He would be my favorite on that team. I expect his upside versus ownership just to math out best for me. After that, I would have Mitchell. Boyan, 6,000 on DK, 5,700 on FanDuel. I like him quite a bit at those prices. The minutes are solid, the production. This should be a matchup that feels well for him. And I like Mike Conley quite a bit too. So I'm a pretty big fan of those top four there. Ingles, with Conley doing his thing and Clarkson around, has been marginalized enough that I don't think there's much of a ceiling there. But this is a fine matchup. It won't get all the pub of Washington or Atlanta. But this Rockets D is going to be an issue for a little while, I expect, the more I look at it.
All right. We're going to talk about some super draft plays here in just a moment, but let's go on to
I think we've talked about super draft plays 4 or 5 times, but let's continue to do so.
Let's go to the last game of the night, the Portland. I keep wanting to say Milwaukee, Portland, Miami game. Of course, we have a little remember me situation here with Hassan Whiteside, who, by the way, is 30. He's not a youngster because he didn't play in the league for about 3 or 4 years there after getting drafted in the second round from the Marshall Thundering Herd. Just wanted to put that out there. He's playing the most minutes he has in his career, or second most minutes he has in his career. He has the best points average per game, rebounds, assists, and second best blocks in his career. He has been phenomenal thus far and should be motivated for this one. So I do like him. I think Bam Adebayo coming back on the other side is nice. Kendrick Nunn and Dragic are the other guys I'm looking at. And then how do you feel about Lillard? So we got a lot of moving parts here to hit on.
Yeah. I still don't like Lillard at that price. It is not a matchup I'm particularly a fan of. Second meeting of the year for these two teams. Got it on about a month ago. There was no CJ McCollum in that game. So you had a very nice Lillard. Like I will just as a segment or something. I will look up this non-McCollum game. They played in Miami that game. Lillard played 42 minutes in that game, which isn't that crazy these days. 34 points, 12 assists, 3 steals, and a rebound. That's pretty exceptional. I can't project him anywhere near that tonight for almost any of those stats, but 34 and 12 assists would be 52, 58. That's 60 fantasy points. That's about what you're going to need on a night. And it's not just him. I don't terribly mind the matchup. Jimmy Butler being absent is a really relevant detail for me as this game gets down the stretch with how they deploy defensively. But it's just the fact I love a lot of guys who cost 8K. Like I like Lillard just fine at 10.2. I can't like him as much as I like Gobert and George and Whiteside and just any number of guys who project for 8 less fantasy points and save $2,000. So it just doesn't math out right for me. So if you want to play Damian Lillard, go ahead. Like it hasn't been good for a couple days, and before that he was, got on high for a couple weeks. So I don't think it's at all out of the realm of possibility that he outscores Westbrook, even though I have Westbrook projected for I think about 3 higher. So it would obviously be, as all things are really at this level, an ownership question. I wouldn't expect it to be overly significant. It's about 14%. That feels fine for me. I do not have a strong Lillard take. I very much like Whiteside. In that previous game, managed to drop a 20-20. I do prefer Whiteside to Adebayo at similar players, similar prices. Obviously, FanDuel is a different kettle of fish for both Price and Adebayo there. I think still a power forward. Not sure about that, but I'm pretty sure he's still.
I believe he is power forward.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's still sitting in there.
Do you see not Crowd? Do you see Iguodala getting in to be functional? Some people are asking for a value play or a late night.
I would play Crowder before I play Iguodala, but I'm concerned with the forwards on Miami as a total. Like Myers Leonard is out, that's nice, but that entire Duncan Robinson, Derek Jones Jr., Andre Iguodala, Crowder, Olynyk, but like there's going to be a hodgepodge of minutes there, and I'm not sure anyone comes out as a winner. So let me check for news, which I seriously doubt we have a ton on this game yet, but I don't know if we have a starting lineup. That would be pretty critical. Is kind of what I'm looking for here. We do not have one. Yeah, we do not have one. Or at least I don't have one from the 2 places I'm looking. So I think Jay Crowder might start. If Jay Crowder starts, I'm going to like $3,900 Jay Crowder quite a bit. But as far as value plays from the Heat, I'm I'm nervous. I like Kendrick Nunn quite a bit. Having Butler out makes that work. I like Goran Dragic quite a bit. Shout out to 100K winner earlier this year when we had a whole lot of. We were about 10 times the field on 3% owned Dragic against the Trailblazers in the first version there, and that was a 100K winner night. So maybe we can do that again. I do like Dragic more than Nunn at, I believe, a $400 spend up on both sites respectively, though I have them very close. I don't have a strong preference there, but I feel like my upside is a little higher with Dragic. So if I have that money, I'd rather make that play. If I don't, I'm not terribly fussed if you end up on Nunn there. But like Adebayo, like Dunn, like Dragic. After that, I'm a little worried about that whole forward rotation and how that's going to work out.
What are you projecting Jay Crowder for on points? We have him at 23. DK.
That's a pretty good play. That's entirely a minutes question for me. Like, yeah. I think Iguodala plays. I don't know. And I think he plays. I have him in for 12 minutes. I have Jay Crowder in for 28 minutes. Actually, I have Jay Crowder in for 26 minutes, I think. But I have no confidence in it. So, again, going to come down to an ownership thing. I think Crowder is probably fine because I am not hearing his name a lot, and the more chalky value is, obviously Brooks, if you count that. Melton has a lot of ownership. Trevor Ariza deserves a shout out in this game. I didn't mention specifically. Never excited to play somewhat popular Trevor Ariza, but he's 36 or whatever on DK. That's a fine value. Go ahead and get some of that up and in your life. But yeah, Lillard, fine. Whiteside, big fan of. Melo at like 5K is perfectly fine. Fills a nasty position on FanDuel. DraftKings, that psychological 99-cent pricing makes you pretty happy. Not a priority for me, but tolerable. I'm purely ambivalent on Carmelo Anthony at 5K. It's like, yeah, I think he's gonna give me 26. He's gonna have 16 real points, 7 rebounds, and one other stat. Yeah, difficult for me to see the ceiling necessarily coming there. But that being said, it's a short slate. That much weird stuff doesn't have to happen for him to get 35. So. He should be on 15 or 20%. I think we have him projected to be on 15 or 20%. Go with your gut as far as Melo goes. He was garbage in the game against them earlier this year. That means absolutely nothing to me.
All right. I'm actually going to upload my lineups here.
Get it done.
Do the thing. Upload, and then we'll look at a few other questions here. A couple people asked about Alec Burks. I just don't with Harrison. What's his name? With Richardson back, I just don't like it.
Yeah, I can't do it. Where do you think the minutes are going to come? Like, let's assume they only give Richardson there's a shot Burks starts, not a great one, but there's a chance Alex Burks starts, and then I'm minorly interested. The matchup is still good. If we get Burks starts, a minute before lock, yeah, good. Slide some Alec Burks in there. But I don't know if I even ranked Glenn Robinson because, you just have to understand these guys are at best the number 4 option on offense on the court at any time. We're still going to get full. Horford is in and Embiid is in. If one of them was out, this would have been more of a conversation.
Yeah, Shake Milton starting.
Shake Milton is starting. So now you have Jay Rich getting some backup time there. Burks. I'm not even sure where he's going to fit in this rotation, but that feels too cute for me. I think he's 5K on the nose. I think I will check, but last I looked, he was actually marked as out on DraftKings, which in fairness, they originally said they would not play. But he's 5K. That feels a little too cute for me. If you're going blowout run, that's fun. They would run him out there for the blowout run. So if you're not heavily investing, you don't have Embiid, and you're like, I'm going to take a shot at Alec Burks. I'm pretty sure he plays. I think I have him at 21 minutes. That's not going to be enough. And that might even have been a little optimistic. So I would proceed with caution as far as that goes and leave it at that.
All right. 7 minutes left. I'm going to talk about overlay because, Eddie, as you always say, that is the most valuable thing we can do. But Super Draft right now just crested to 900 of 1,430. So we've got 7 minutes left. My guess is they're going to get up to about 1,100, 1,150 on this Sunday. So are getting some decent overlay there. So let's talk a few plays. By the way, we do have projections for Super Draft. They don't have salary caps. How does that work? They have multipliers for their players, and they have a variety of every good scoring thing you can think of. They've got it. Double and triple bonuses, yes. 3 for blocks and steals, yes. Half a point for 3-pointers, you betcha. -1 for turnovers, and then everything else is usually about what you are used to seeing. And then players have multipliers. So tonight, Trae Young and Harden have a multiplier of 1. But someone like Donovan the Spider Mitchell has a multiplier of 1.45. Elfrid Payton, 1.45, which would be great if he gets 7 steals again. Ja Morant, 1.5. There's some guys that are jumping off the page here, and those would be some of them. But I'm going to throw out a couple names here, Eddie, and you give us a yay or a nay. So our number one projected guy is Paul George. Question is how many minutes you think he's going to get, but we have about 50 base points with his 1.35 multiplier. That's up to 68 points.
Yeah, that's pretty juicy. I feel that's, if I had to guess, a little high. I think a projection of 50, although I can't intuitively tell you exactly what the bonus is for their scoring system, so maybe that's right. I have him projected for a little bit less than that, and I can see ways he doesn't get there. So he's obviously going to be in your top 7 plays by any sort of points per dollar thing. And I don't have a great sense for the ownership there. Although maybe I'll try to see if I can start getting some records because more and more people are playing there and the overlay is nice. So maybe I'll start taking a look at the ownership and seeing if anyone's listening and works for Osmo.com, send me a little spreadsheety tonight of the ownership on Super Draft so I can study it. So it would be an ownership question for me. If I thought he was going to be 20% owned, yeah, I'd probably pile all over that. If I thought he was going to be 50, 60% owned, I'd probably go somewhere else because it seems like there are a lot of incredibly good plays this evening, and I can get away from even the best projected one if he's going to be in half the lineups. So, yeah, mathematically, I can't say playing Paul George is a bad idea against the Cavs with a healthy modifier.
All right. Let's see. So Bam Adebayo is coming in at 1.4. Hassan Whiteside is just 1.1. Bam you can play at power forwards. I believe Bam is Adebayo. He is power forward. Yes. You only can play one center. There are a few guys that have multi-position eligibility, but more often than not, center can be a little bit crowded there. You've got Drummond at a 1.05, Whiteside at 1.1, Embiid at 1.2, and Gobert at 1.3. Those are our 3 highest projected guys. Guys falling out are on the edge. Jonas Valanciunas at 1.35. Does any one of those stand out to you?
As the center slash
the
big
center,
play?
Yes.
I'd probably take the shot on Montrez at 1.6. They're all fine.
He is a forward, actually. Yes.
Oh. Then I'd probably stick on Whiteside. What was his number? I think you said he was 1.1. Actually,
Whiteside is 1.1. So for me, it's coming down to Whiteside at 1.1, Gobert at 1.3, and Embiid at 1.2.
Yeah, I would have. Oh, that's really close. Yeah, I think I would have Embiid, Gobert, Whiteside in that order of those 3, but they would all end up with the modifier clocking in for me
right around.
Or so. Like it feels like they would all be in that range for me.
All right, and
but I think Embiid would be tops of those for me.
For guards, Kendrick Nunn is really flying up. He's got a 1.75 multiplier. We have Lou Williams with 1.6. That's popping up there. Dame is at 1, so I don't feel as excited about him. Goran Dragic 1.7. All of a sudden, Dragic is in play. Would you go Dragic or none?
I'd go Dragic.
Okay.
At a higher multiplier, I would definitely play Dragic there. I have no problem playing them both. I should point out at this juncture, if they're 1.6 and 1.7, that's a really strong matchup. I'm absolutely fine getting there.
All right, 3 minutes left.
I think there's gonna be some real overlay here, kids. It's 1,014 out of 1,438. I don't know if that's the number you show, but there's 2 minutes. So, that's $12,400 in and $15,000 out with 2 minutes and 10 seconds to go.
Oh, why not? Why don't I just take Lillard as my last play in, and what's $12 amongst friends? There we go.
Yeah, it's a good way. Yeah, currently 10:20 out of 14:38, 1 minute and 58 seconds on the clock. I am going back to looking at news and tweet deck and stuff.
All right, we got about 90 seconds, like you said. Let's see if I can find Slack chat. Don't freeze on me.
Yeah,
It's
but
been
that's really
doing
nice.
that
For every
lately.
dollar that contest takes in, they're gonna pay out $1.20, which is pretty good relative to tournaments that will take in $1 and pay out 85 cents.
How do you feel about Reggie Bullock as a value guy?
Would be a low priority for me for perceived lack of upside, but not out of play. Like, so if I saw Reggie Bullock in a lineup, it'd be like, that's fine. But the upside a little rare to get there. Dion Waiters waived.
Dragic, Brooks, and Bogdanovich, or none, McCollum, and House for FanDuel.
Dragic, Brooks, and Bogdanovich.
I'm just putting these in. See, this is for those of you that are in the YouTube chat. This is why it's better to be in the Slack chat, because I am typing the answers in so they can get them there quickly. Because you know what? They are the paying customer. So if you have not yet signed up for Osmo, since by the time you're hearing my voice, we actually are going to be at lock, you can use the promo code live before lock, all one word, to get 50% off any 1 month package. If you have not yet signed up for Super Draft, when you do so, if you use the promo code Osmo on your first deposit, if it's $100 or more, they will give you $20 in Super Cash, which is available for immediate use into any contest.
Yeah, I like Whiteside. Someone's asking about the revenge narrative for Whiteside. Again, they already played this year, and they already played in Miami, so I think that's less pertinent here. But sure, I think it's a fine spot anyway, and it's really too cheap on DraftKings. So,
Dave, I'm sorry I missed your Super Chat. Favorite power forward on FanDuel?
Jaren Jackson Jr. probably.
And Dave, if you have questions in chat, you can always ask us because you're behind the paywall. But your super chats are welcome.
We haven't gotten as many super chats recently. I think people got tired of the novelty.
Could be.
I don't know how I'm gonna, get mom that operation she needs.
Sorry, I'm just watching a scroll of YouTube chat here because it had frozen and I hadn't realized that. All my chats froze. I don't know why. That's disconcerting because I turned my computer off and reboot it once in the morning, so this shouldn't be happening. But
what you are in that contest on Super Draft, so you can likely tell me how much.
Let me. I just closed that window, but let me go. And go to the live page. I am now winning $12.05, so it got a little closer. $12.45 out of
right. So 14. If you're your $12 turned into $12.05. That's a perfectly fine answer. So it overlaid 1%.
Yes,
which is fine. It takes no rake and pays out a little more than it takes.
Correct. In. So, but it ended up being, and for those of you that get confused, there's overlay doesn't mean room in the contest. It means what are they keeping for themselves? And in this case, they're not.
Yeah, overlay. There is a tiny amount of overlay in this contest.
There was 14%
entered. It would have not filled.
Yeah, there's 14% room in the contest, but the implied value is not 14%.
Yeah, I mean it's there's no functional difference between less rake and then cascading into the overlay there, but overlay is when the site pays out more than it takes in. Frequently you will get what's funny.
What do you think Paul George's ownership is on Super Draft?
My gut is too high, so I'll say.
Oh, we don't have it yet. I think that's Rinpack just telling us what his ownership was.
Oh, okay. I was about to say.
What do you think Rinpack's ownership was for George and for Embiid?
I don't know, but you owe me a very nice lunch, Rinpack. So. Happy to. I'll go ahead and publicly announce now the plan. At least need to finalize the details, but I will be Rinpack's +1 at the World Fantasy whatever the hell championships in Los Angeles. I'm gonna suit up and perhaps consult in the construction of one very specific FanDuel lineup.
There you go. Was that from his monstrous night the other night?
No, that was a different monstrous night of his. There's been about 3 this year. That was a different monstrous night, but he owes me a nice bow tie, pre-tied, and maybe he bought me. He's a real decent guy. I went out to dinner with him and my wife recently. He brought us a box of chocolates. He's a sweetheart. Like he's very Norman Rockwell. I love me some Rinpack.
All right, 98% was the answer.
But that Rinpack head?
Yeah.
I don't hate it.
I have 100% because I have him in my one lineup.
Yeah.
Why don't you like him, Rinpack? Clearly, I like him. I've got 100%.
Yeah, why don't you like him as much? Again, the flaw with the more or less, most least things that people say. Why did Rinpack hate Paul George relative to?
Yeah, my $12 versus your $500 in the tournament. So.
I imagine a lot of people play Super Draft very just straight up. Here are my projections, multipliers, my top 7 dudes. Go is my guess, and especially with people being able to. They do MME, right? You can
yes, and they have CSV,
right? So I imagine that the chalky guys end up being a little over-owned. That's just my complete and total top of my head guess on the percentages of the different people in the tournament. But as you're going to get Paul George as the highest projected guy there tonight by a few points, I imagine. I think he ends up being 60 or 70% owned, and there's enough uncertainty for me that I would buck that trend. But to factor that out, I'd have to look at, again, how those tendencies work and what percentage of the prize pools go to first. Like if the percentage to the prize pool, the higher that gets, the more appropriate it would be to fade the chalk a little more. So there's all kinds of inherent math there, but dude will be owned. Is ownership up for
yes. Who is the number one most popular play on DraftKings? We have what, two games? 3 games.
Right? 3, 2, and 1, right?
Yeah, 3 games. You got Philly and Chicago.
Philadelphia, Chicago.
New York, Atlanta, and Washington, Memphis.
Yep. There's gonna be some good ones here. Okay, the highest on play on those games. Dylan Brooks, highest on play on the slate.
You are correct.
40%.
46.8.
Yeah, that's too much. It's a fine play, but again, and I really think you should have intuitively a sense of that. Like, set aside all the math. Is Dylan Brooks the most locked in thing in the world? No, he can just miss some shots and fail in a game from time to time. It's been much less common the last couple of months as the season's gone on. He's been really consistent, but he's still very, very points based, and he's going to occasionally have a Kobe 4 for 19 from the field kind of night. So 50% ownership on a slate with this much value and this many other negatively correlated plays on his own team, you should just inherently feel that 47% is too high. In the long run, if you're over the field on Dylan Brooks tonight, it'll be worse for you than if you're under. So 47% is too high. 30 would be about right. Half the lineups having Dylan Brooks. It's not that weird for him not to get there, especially, again, with all the other guys on his team. So.
All right. Number 2.
Let's see. Embiid. Feel good about that. Jojo?
It is Joel Embiid.
37?
44.
Okay. There's a number. Now it's going to get tricky. I don't even know where it's going to go from here. Yeah.
How many?
I'll be thinking about this for a while. Just give me names and I'll guess numbers or something if you want. But this would take me a while.
All right. Ja Morant.
Is he next? He's 3rd?
No, D'Anthony Melton is, but Morant's 4th.
Okay. Well, these will be down a good bit. I'll say 27 and 22 respectively for Melton and Morant.
Very close. 30 and 23.
Those feel fine.
Beal and Hachimura.
20-ish.
Yep. Davis Bertans, 14.
Nice.
Zach Attack, 8.
Yeah, I mean, he's in and Gafford's in, right?
Yep. Shabazz Napier. I'm just going down, calling out names that are interesting now. Reggie Bullock was 5. Napier is 5.
Talk to me about Trae Young.
Trae Young is 6.5.
Yeah, I like that.
Orkhan Korkmaz had a revenge. He had a remember me game for his own team. You traded for scoring. I can score.
Turkey from Turkey. Yeah, that happened.
2.5 for him. Brandon Clark.
Sorry?
Brandon Clark, 1.8. That's all.
Yeah. I do think it is reasonable to have some concern about the guys they brought in. Like, if they're going to play Gorgie Jang, he's going to almost certainly play at the 5, and they play Brandon Clark next to J-Val for about 4 minutes a game, and they have some other, like, I'm concerned about the big minutes there until we get some sample. So I don't think he's unplayable whatsoever at that low percentage. But where's Alfred Payton? That's another good one. He'll be way up.
Elf was, I think he was around 5. Yeah, he was 5.2.
Yeah, I'd want more than that too.
Tyus Jones was 2.6.
Okay.
Vince Carter was 1.1.
Yeah, again, they're staffing up pretty well there, and almost everyone's back. I guess Reddish is still out.
Is Mike Scott still with Philly, right?
Yep.
0.5% for him, 0.5% for Glenn Robinson the third.
Everyone's healthy. What, 0.5% for Mitch?
For Glenn Robinson. Glenn.
Oh, okay. How much for Mitch Robinson? I heard Robinson. I'm like, really?
Mitch Robinson is 2.4.
Yeah, I really like that. Again, I'm colored a little bit by having watched their earlier game, and he had whatever the hell 27. He had his best game of the year coming off the bench against the
Kyle O'Quinn. 1.7 or 0.17.
Okay, he is active and back with the team. That is not a playing yourself. He did miss the last game, but he is active. So
Mo Harkless 0.06.
That is actually playing yourself.
Dion Waiters 0.01. Cam Reddish 0.02.
Dion Waiters is not even on an NBA team at this point, so that's certainly playing yourself.
Otto Porter Jr.
That's a placeholder lineup. I don't
Clint Capella. Chris Dunn. Lauri Markkanen. Onshake Speshesniks.
Wow, how the hell do you get that name right? Of all the names, how do you get that one right?
Because I don't look at it. I just know how they say it on the telecast.
Yeah.
If I look at it, I'm like, on Zez's? Where is the Z silent? I don't know.
Which one of the Z's?
Yes. Yeah. Justice Winslow. Charlie Brown. He's a clown.
Charlie Brown's active, I think. Winslow out. Charlie Brown technically active, yeah. I believe.
Kenny Wooten. I don't even know who he plays for.
Knicks? I'm not sure, which is never a good sign for me. I want to say Knicks, and then he's in there. I think he's down in the G League with Kadeem Allen, but I'm Kenny Wooten is an American professional basketball player for the New York Knicks. Yeah, who he play for? I'm all about a game of who he play for sometime, by the way. I will do better. I will who he play for against Charles Barkley for any amount of money. And that man likes to gamble. Let's go, Charles. Look me up.
I would like to see that, actually. They
I
asked
love that show. I am an effete intellectual social justice warrior, whatever, and just those guys hanging out. I really enjoy watching inside the NBA. Still. It's not like good television by any metric by which I would judge something as good television, but it's amazingly watchable.
McCod says Wooten was ruled out of his G League game.
Is that true? That would be really funny. Either way, but yeah, I was pretty sure he was down in the G League, but I don't remember. I can't tell you where he played. Like I don't have a file on him because he wasn't relevant for me in summer league. So that's
all right.
That's how I learned. Like I don't have time. I watch so much pro basketball. I basically never watch college basketball. So one of the reasons I like doing the summer league coverage is I actually get time to research new players coming into the league. Otherwise, opening day of the year, I'm like, who's this Zion guy? Like I just don't get it. But Wooten wasn't relevant in summer league, so I don't. Because the Knicks ran out the all-star of summer league squads, and they were terrible then. We should have known something was up. But they started like 4 NBA veterans and RJ Barrett in summer league. Like they had the nut summer league squad, and they got destroyed. That is your summer league flashback for the night.
All right. Let's do some. They're asking. Sorry, we got some weird chat going on right now. FanDuel. I've pulled up a contest here. This is their whatever their big gigantic the shot machine. $7 contest, 300,000, 50K to first. There you go. I didn't play it because it wasn't for 100. So there you go.
Yeah. No. If I can't hit 6 digits,
Joel Embiid was 10%.
I like that.
Thaddeus Young 3%.
Okay.
Jaren Jackson 16.
Yeah, I like that. Again, I liked him a lot. That's a power forward was not great. I'm trying to remember where the ownership went on power forward.
Well, I would on FanDuel, I would guess it went to Randall and Collins.
Right, it's Randall Collins, Bam are going to eat a lot of it.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a bit of spending up there. I like Jaren at his price.
Tobias Harris is 30%.
Small forward. See, that's why FanDuel is fun. Small forward. I would have rather played Bojan. I imagine he's pretty high too, but there you had like Tobias Harris at some significantly higher price. Bojan was, I think, 57. I'd have rather gone with Bojan or obviously Paul George.
Sorry, what's the wrong page there? Zach was 6.2, Chandler Hutchison 11, Kevin Herter 22, Tomas Satoransky was 8.8.
Here's 5K there for Herter, so that's fine.
Yeah. What's his name? Ben Simmons is 12.6. Let's see who else is there. Alfred Payton is 13. Bradley Beal, here we go, some Memphis guys. Bradley Beal is 23. John Collins is 36. Rui Hachimura, oh, there's your cheap guy. Rui Hachimura at 4,800 was 27.
Yeah, I don't expect the minutes to get too out of control. You're still getting, I think I had him for 29. He just usually doesn't do a whole lot but like points and rebounds. Gives you a lot of very flat, like he gets 20 real points and I'd project him for 28 fantasy points because it's coming with 6 rebounds and nothing. But again, the position was a damn nightmare. But I'd be in a vacuum a little more excited about playing Jaren Jackson Jr. for I think it was 6'4" there than Rui at 4'8". But yeah, I'd rather have Jackson at whatever you said, 15, 16.
Yeah, 16%. Just a lot of dupes here. Reggie Bullock is 4. Go a couple pages down because now everybody's got the same scoring.
Well, hard to play Reggie Bullock at 3,800 whatever, and you can get Lou Williams without Kawhi at 5.4 or whatever the heck he's priced at. So I imagine it will be 65, 70. It should be.
Trying to find a Randall one, but I haven't. But there's for those of you, since we don't always do the FanDuel, since there were 3 games, it made it a little easier to find players there. There we are. All right, well, with that, we are back on the old YouTube, as you know. But reminder, you can still listen in the background when we're on Twitch. All you got to do is go tap the screen under the gearbox, go to audio only, swipe your phone closed. You'll lose the audio, and then when you're at your lock screen, push play, and boom, it's in the background, and you can use other apps, you can surf the internet, you can do whatever you want. There are several other methods of doing that. You can Google them, but it's very, very easy to do. I want to remind everybody for that. And then, Monday, we're starting all over again. 9:30, you're going to get the DFS strategy show for NBA. So we are back. And Adam, Thursday, last day of NBA. So we've got NASCAR coming up this weekend. I had a little nice...
Thursday is Adam's last day of NBA. Did you say that?
No, it's Up and Adam, not because I was thinking of Adam, and then I started thinking Up and Adam, Ant. It was just in my mind the cartoon that I probably haven't seen in 40 years. But
yeah, you went deep for that one.
I did.
You went deep down the pop culture archive.
I did, but we'll probably have a little world versus the USA cover, or no, it's team. What do they do with the Rising Stars now? It's not sophomore.
First 2 years, World versus US. So they get Canada is the problem. If we could have North America versus the world, we'd have a better chance. But world's pretty good.
I turned my $52 of NASCAR into $216. That was fun.
It's fun.
Little 5 extra there. But reminder, we'll have some NBA All-Star. We did projections last year, so I'm sure we will do that again this year. We'll
Last year it was crazy. It was our highest watch show of the entire year, maybe across all sports. I would have to look it up, but there were some 15,000 people watching the NBA All-Star game. So we should I'm gonna get confetti or something like that. But
most definitely. But we've got that, and we've just got all sorts of stuff. NASCAR, of course. You got Daytona is this week, is Sunday. And then XFL, very, very popular. So I actually was winning on XFL. See how I'm doing on that. But we had projections for that.
I can't imagine. Like, I used to do 2 sports, and I felt bad because I couldn't devote enough time to the 2 sports. So I retreated to 1, just because I don't know. It's don't get me wrong. There's lots of skills that cross over sports, but it's just
I use our content. We have great content. I just want to say.
I'm not saying playing. I'm saying producing content for. I think one of the great reasons to have an ownership at Osmo and/or Fantasy Cruncher is the fact that it covers multiple sports and it gives you the tools to be able to do that. Providing coverage, where I think being a good DFS player and having good tools and process are all very important, but also you should try to know something about the sport. I don't think that's an unreasonable request. That's tough when you're doing 6 sports. So I occasionally see people who are like, yeah, here are my picks for college basketball, followed by MMA, followed by XFL, followed by PGA, followed by NBA. And I'm just like if I was going to pay that guy for gambling picks or DFS picks, I'd be like, how, like, there's a lot of rake and it's a hard thing to win right now. How can you be so good at every sport? And don't get me wrong, there's some really, really smart dudes, but I occasionally see a guy, tweet his 6th sport of the day, and I'm like, how much time can you really have put into breaking all of these down? Like, when I saw League of Legends, I was like, all right, that's just enough. Just stop. That's too much.
Yeah, three is my max, and I can't do more. I can. The crossover periods damn near kill me.
Oh yeah, like towards the end, baseball has started, but basketball hasn't finished yet in that period of time, or football has started and basketball is in preseason and blah.
Yeah. So those 4 months where we are in 2 sports, so 2 of the big 3, it's horrible.
Yeah, I am not envious. I take the easy way out. Forget that noise.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to say, hit the like button. Thank you for the last 500 or so.
And we're back on. YouTube.
Yeah. There we
are.
I'm
on a 48-hour break. I will be back. I will be back Tuesday.
Excellent. Hey, Rimpack, if you're listening, maybe you want to do a podcast tonight. Last time you did a podcast with me, that next week you won $100,000. So we'll see. Slide into those DMs, Rimpack.
You want to give me a back rub the last time you get. Talk about that.
All right. With that, gamers, you can follow Eddie at FastEddieFair. I am at EMACDFS, and of course, it is Osmo_COM. Good luck.